Now the next section that we had was text alignment, and we were using our div tag in order to be able to right and left and center align. We saw that the default is left aligned. We've already learned in our style sheet that we can affect the text alignment right directly in the style sheet. Header 2 is centered. The section header 2 is right aligned. And so I'm going to come back in here and I'm going to remove that because we don't need to show the text alignment anymore. But I see another quasi section. So I'm actually going to create, we have in our style sheet section, this is a class selector. So I'm going to create another class selector and I'm going to apply it to maybe several of these other lines, web page. Let's come in here. So I am going to copy this current selector, this current class selector, and then down at the bottom, I'm going to change the name of it. Let me scroll this down just a little bit. I'm going to call this section 1 because each one of these CSS rules needs a different name. And then I'm going to change a few things about this. So let's change, we'll change the background color. We'll make the border much larger and solid black. We're going to change the padding and the margin. And this time I'm also going to add a width element because if we had been looking at my browser in full page, you could see that my first selection, the division takes up the entire width of the page. And so if I add a width element to that, I'll make it 60% of the entire screen. And so I'm going to go back to my HTML file and I'm going to apply this class selection or this class selector to several things. So I'm going to copy the one that we had up here for our line spacing, and then I'm going to paste it. How about if we paste it above other lines? But this is actually section 1. Let me make sure in my style sheet that the section 1 is one word. And then I'm also going to put it here for the web links. Once again, make sure that it is section 1. And of course, if I open up a division, we are going to have to close the division. So I'll use the div tag to close the division for the other lines. And then I will paste it down here and I will close that div tag for the web page links. And then I should be able to save my style sheet and my HTML file and refresh my browser. And I can see that when I refresh my browser, if I make it much longer, notice, or much larger, full page, I can see that this division is actually 60% of the page. But I also see that this phrase, this is an excellent reference, is showing in what appears to be my bold, large, italicized, and underlined. So let's make this smaller again because I have a sneaking suspicion that somewhere near this phrase right here, which I can see excellent reference website, I can see that we missed a paragraph tag. So if I delete that paragraph tag, because we have a CSS rule specifically for the paragraph tag, then if I save this file and I refresh my browser here, then it should remove that paragraph styling from that particular line. And just because we already have these section selectors, I am going to complete the rest of these with my document link. I'm going to make this division class selection, and then I'll do the same thing with images. And do we have any more below us? We do not. So I'm going to make that section instead of section 1. I am going to have to close that div tag. So let me paste this onto my clipboard, give myself a little bit of room, and we'll paste that, or we'll put that below the images. And then I'm going to save this. I don't have to make any changes to my CSS because we already have the class selector section 1 and the class selector section. If I save this and I refresh my browser now, I can see that each one of these additional sections, we've been calling them sections, is now defined as a section. And I would actually like to change these comments, other lines, web links, document links, and image into headers. so that we can see them inside of the section, just like we can with my line spacing. So since we have a section a section and a section header 2, we're going to need to do the same thing with our section 1. So I can see that I have a section for header 2. I'm going to paste that down here, and now I am going to do a section 1 header 2. And I'm going to update my section 1 header 2 to just have a light green color. I'm going to remove that alignment. And then I need to come back inside of here, and I'm going to change each one of these comments inside of my section 1 to be header 2. So I came back into my HTML file and I changed all of these content, or all of the comments, to be header 2. Every single one of them is just a header 2. Some of them are in section, some of them are in section 1. They're all header 2. If I go back into my style sheet, I see that I have a section 1 header 2, and this is a class selector. So if I save both my web page and I save my style sheet and I refresh my browser, now each one of my divisions should have a header inside of it.